What happens after we die? The question of what happens after death is one of the oldest and most profound mysteries that humanity has ever pondered. Nearly every religion offers its own vision of the afterlife. Christianity speaks of heaven and hell, Hinduism and Buddhism present cycles of reincarnation, and Islam describes a vivid judgment followed by paradise or punishment. Yet, despite these detailed doctrines, no living person can claim to know with certainty what lies beyond death. This is because death is a threshold that once crossed offers no return, at least not in any verifiable way. Some individuals report near-death experiences, visions of light, or feelings of peace, but these accounts are highly subjective and often influenced by cultural or religious background. From a scientific standpoint, we understand the physical process of dying. Brain activity ceases, and biological functions stop. But science cannot yet explain what, if anything, happens to consciousness afterward. Some religious traditions view death as a transition to a higher state, while others see it as the end of one journey and the beginning of another. Atheists and secular thinkers typically interpret death as the permanent cessation of awareness, equating it to a dreamless sleep. This uncertainty leaves many people filled with a mix of fear, hope, and philosophical reflection. Despite thousands of years of religious teachings, philosophical inquiry, and spiritual experience, the afterlife remains one of the greatest unanswered questions in human existence. Why does evil exist, if God is good and all-powerful? This age-old dilemma, often called the problem of evil, challenges the very foundation of many religious belief systems. If God is all-powerful, then he should be able to stop evil, and if he is all good, he should want to. But evil and suffering are undeniably present in the world. From genocides to child illness, from natural disasters to systemic injustice, pain and cruelty often seem random and undeserved. Some theologians argue that evil results from human free will. We are not puppets, and our choices bring both good and bad outcomes. However, this explanation falls short when considering natural disasters or genetic diseases, which are not caused by moral decisions. Others claim that suffering is part of a divine test or a means of spiritual refinement, and that all will be made right in an afterlife. Still, this perspective requires faith in a bigger plan that remains hidden to human understanding. The Book of Job addresses this question by showing a righteous man who suffers without explanation, ultimately suggesting that God's ways are beyond human comprehension. Atheists and skeptics often point to the existence of evil as strong evidence against a benevolent, omnipotent deity. For many believers, this question is not answered through logic, but through trust in divine mystery and the hope that goodness will ultimately prevail. Despite countless books, sermons, and philosophical arguments, no single answer has ever satisfied everyone, making this one of the most enduring questions in the philosophy of religion. Who or what created God? Religions generally describe God as eternal and uncreated, but the human mind struggles with the concept of something that has no beginning. If everything must have a cause, then why is God the exception? This question exposes the limits of human reasoning when dealing with the infinite. Philosophers argue that God exists necessarily and not contingently, but that can feel like a cop-out. Some suggest the divine exists outside time, making beginning irrelevant. Others believe the question is flawed because it imposes physical rules on a metaphysical being. Yet the curiosity remains. If God made everything, what made God? Every answer seems to loop back on itself, and so the question lingers, unanswered. Why do different religions claim exclusive truth? Many faiths assert that they alone possess the ultimate path to salvation or enlightenment. But with thousands of religions across time and cultures, how can only one be true? This question troubles believers and skeptics alike. Are billions of people simply wrong because they were born in the wrong religion? Some argue that all paths lead to the same truth, but that view isn't accepted by exclusivist traditions. Religious pluralism offers hope for unity, but not all theologies support it. Scriptures often command loyalty to a single truth. Interfaith dialogue attempts to bridge gaps, yet the exclusivity claim remains a barrier. The question challenges the very foundations of religious identity, and no consensus has ever resolved it. Why does God remain hidden? If God desires a relationship with humanity, why isn't his presence more obvious? Miracles are often subtle or debatable, and divine appearances are rare. Scriptures describe moments of revelation, but they're thousands of years old. People long for a direct encounter with the divine, something undeniable. Some say faith requires God to remain unseen, but that feels unsatisfying to many. Others argue we see God through nature or conscience, but those are subjective. A hidden God creates confusion, doubt, and even spiritual despair. Why would a loving creator risk being misunderstood or disbelieved? The silence can feel like absence, and no religion has ever fully explained this divine mystery. Is there only one true religion, or are they all wrong? If only one religion is correct, then countless others must be false. But But if all religions are wrong, where does that leave humanity's spiritual instincts? This question challenges both believers and skeptics alike. It touches on history, culture, psychology, and metaphysics. Religions often contradict one another on key doctrines, so can they all be right? Yet common themes like compassion and transcendence suggest a shared longing. Some propose that all religions reflect partial truths. Others insist truth is absolute, not relative. The question has no clear answer without omniscient insight, and so it fuels endless debate and introspection. Why are divine commands sometimes immoral by human standards? Sacred texts contain commandments that today seem cruel, such as genocide, slavery, or stoning. Believers often say such commands were context-specific or misunderstood. Yet moral discomfort remains when reading these passages. If God is the source of morality, why would his actions seem unjust? Some theologians argue that divine morality is beyond human judgment. Others reinterpret troubling texts allegorically or culturally. Atheists and critics use such commands to challenge religion's moral authority. Believers struggle to reconcile ancient texts with modern ethics. The tension between divine will and human conscience persists, and no interpretation has settled the issue universally. If God knows the future, do we really have free will? Omniscience implies that God knows everything that will happen. If that's true, are our choices already determined? Some argue that foreknowledge doesn't mean causation. Others say free will is an illusion if the outcome is already known. This paradox has puzzled thinkers from Augustine to Aquinas to modern philosophers. Predestination versus free will remains a theological minefield. Some religions accept fate, others fiercely defend autonomy. Quantum physics and consciousness studies add complexity but no clarity. The idea that God watches a scripted life unfold unsettles many, yet the question endures with no definitive answer. Why are prayers sometimes unanswered? Across religions, prayer is a deeply personal and spiritual act. People cry out to the divine for healing, protection, justice, and guidance, often in their most desperate moments. Many pray with complete sincerity, their requests driven not by selfish desire, but by love, survival, or the longing for peace. Yet, time and again, some of these prayers seem to fall into silence, leaving no sign of divine intervention. Theologians often explain this by saying that some prayers do not align with God's will or greater plan. Others claim that unanswered prayers are a way to strengthen faith or teach trust, even in suffering. But when tragedies strike, despite collective prayers from entire communities, the result can feel cruel, confusing, and deeply painful. If God is truly all-knowing, all-loving, and attentive, why allow suffering to persist when relief is so fervently requested? Many believers fall back on the idea that God works in mysterious ways, or that human beings cannot understand divine reasoning. But emotionally, this can feel more like a dismissal than an answer. For some, repeated silence erodes their trust in a benevolent deity, while for others it becomes a spiritual challenge to endure. The deeper issue is not just about outcomes, but about whether the divine truly listens and cares. Despite centuries of prayer and theology, the question of why some prayers go unanswered continues to haunt even the most devout hearts. What is the ultimate purpose of existence? This question strikes at the heart of philosophy, religion, and the human experience itself. Why are we here? Religious traditions offer a wide range of answers. Christianity may say our purpose is to glorify and serve God. Buddhism emphasizes the pursuit of enlightenment and freedom from suffering. Islam teaches submission to divine will, and Hinduism points to spiritual progression through karma and rebirth. Yet beyond these frameworks, many people still wrestle with a deeper sense of meaning. Why does anything exist at all? Why a universe? Why consciousness? Why life? Philosophers have long asked why there is something instead of nothing. And while science offers models for how the universe began, the Big Bang, cosmic inflation, it cannot explain the ultimate why. Some suggest that life is a divine experiment, a drama playing out with cosmic significance. Others think it's all a random outcome of probability and physics. For some, purpose is found in love, creativity, or helping others. For others, it's an ongoing search that never quite resolves. In a world filled with both beauty and suffering, the quest for ultimate meaning becomes deeply personal, yet universally shared. And despite the insights of religion, the rigor of philosophy, and the discoveries of science, the ultimate reason for existence, if one exists at all, remains one of humanity's greatest and most elusive mysteries. If you liked this video exploring religion's biggest mysteries, you won't want to miss our next one. Top 10 Benefits of Being an Atheist. From intellectual freedom to ethical autonomy, we'll break down the unexpected perks of a godless worldview. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss it.